Have you ever wondered why some piglets thrive while others die just few hours after birth, even when they all came from the same healthy sow? The difference is not luck, it's actually what happens in the first 72 hours. If you miss it, you miss your future profit from your piglet. If you nail it, then you set your piglets up for strong rapid growth as well as high survival rate. Welcome once more to GAC Podcasts, your trusted source for practical farming insights. I am your host, Joshua Salvation. Today we are tackling one of the most crucial phases of piglet development, those fragile first 72 hours after birth. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced farmer, these best practices can dramatically reduce piglet mortality as well as increase your productivity if done right. So, let's dive in. Why does the first 72 hours matter? After farrowing, why does the first 72 hours matter? I actually feel right having a good voice. It's sweet! But let's go in. Let me not dilly-dally. Now, the first 72 hours after farrowing are the most vulnerable periods in your piglet's life. Understand that in this window, your piglets are exposed to risks such as chilling because of cold, starvation, being crushed by the sow, as well as infection. Yet, it is also the period where you can take simple but life-saving steps to protect them. Have at the back of your mind that newborn piglets have very limited energy reserves and underdeveloped immune system. They rely mostly or entirely on your intervention to stay warm, feed properly, and avoid being accidentally crushed by their sow or their mother. What are immediate actions you can take within the first hour after the farrowing is done? Right after the piglet is born, your actions within the first hour set a tone for its survival. Like we discussed in the last episode or in the previous episode, we talked about drying your piglet. It's important to do this with a clean, dry, soft towel. This will help wipe off amniotic fluid from the mother, and this stimulates blood circulation as well as prevents chilling. Clear the airways. Gently clean the piglet's nose and mouth to ensure that it can breathe. Tip 3 is to ensure colostrum intake. Now, colostrum is the piglet's first milk that it gets from the mother and is rich in antibodies, energy, and nutrients. Make sure that every piglet suckles within the first 30 minutes of birth, and if a piglet is weak, guide it to the teats or hand feed using colostrum replacer if it is necessary. Fourth tip to help you stay on top of your game is to provide warmth. Newborn piglets can't regulate their body temperature and as such require heat between 30 to 32 degrees. To supply this heat, you can decide to use heat lamp or heated pad, right? Now let's go to another segment. How do you prevent crushing and injury of your piglets? Because that is one thing that kills piglets a lot. Most times your piglet is not sick. You come back the next day and you see the way it's flat, compressed, dead in the pen. Nothing happened to it. It was the mother that crushed it, probably accidentally because it slipped or tripped on the floor or it mistakenly laid on the piglet. Now, one of the leading causes of death in piglets is being crushed by the sow. And to minimize this risk, take the following precautions. 1. Use farrowing crates with piglet protection rails. These can actually limit the sow's movement while allowing piglets to nurse safely. Number 2, it's important to supervise farrowing closely. Be present if possible to actually help struggling piglets move away from the sow's body, as they can be crushed if there are any unnecessary movements or there are any rough movements. Let me use that word because all movements are necessary, especially during birth. 3 is to encourage split suckling. If you have a large litter, let's assume your piglet has 15, your sow had 15 piglets, it's important to actually split suckle them, right? Rotate piglets to give weaker ones a chance to feed while others actually rest. Another segment talks about feeding, hydration, and supplementation. How is this important in terms of boosting your business by ensuring survival of your piglets? After colostrum, piglets should begin feeding regularly. But how do you actually help them stay nourished and energized? Number one is to observe feeding behavior. Make sure that all the piglets are actively suckling from the sow. Weak or small piglets may need extra attention or help to actually assist them to suckle, because when piglets are suckling, they actually more or less shade each other, preventing them to actually suckle. So if you have the weaker ones and you don't pay attention, they might end up being malnourished and probably die out over time or within the first few hours of birth. Another thing is to introduce creep feed. This is optional in the first week. Although it's not mandatory for the first 3 days, some farmers still start introducing high quality creep feed from the third to fourth day to help stimulate early digestion. Provide clean water. I cannot emphasize this or overemphasize this. Offer access to clean water in shallow containers, even from the early days of birth. Let them understand or let them take enough water. This helps with their digestion. Another part is iron supplementation. If you've been doing pig farming for a long time, you understand that piglets are born iron deficient. That is why we give them iron supplements. By day 2 to 3, administer iron either via injection or orally to prevent anemia, which is a common issue in fast-growing piglets. I mostly advise that you use the injection because that is what I'm used to. I have not actually applied or given iron to piglets orally. We actually just inject them and we ensure that all of them had access or has access to it. Hygiene and monitoring for illness. To ensure that your piglets are healthy, you cannot over monitor. You cannot over observe. Daily cleaning is one thing you should ensure that is done. Remove wet beddings and feces, replace them with dry and warm beddings. Ensure to disinfect equipment, both feeding equipment and watering equipment, daily. Observe piglet behavior. Lethargy, cold bodies, or refusal to nurse are red flags in piglets. So it's important that you act fast by warming the piglets, isolating it if it is needed, and considering veterinary care if necessary. For the navel, ensure that you dip the umbilical cord into an iodine immediately after birth to prevent infection. These are the little I can actually take. Have at the back of your mind that the health and survival of a piglet is not based on chance, as people might say, or they will tell you you have luck. It's actually built on preparation, close observation, and early intervention. The first 72 hours can either be the start of your thriving litter or the end of your efforts. Thank you so much for tuning into GAC Podcasts. If you have found this episode valuable, share with a fellow farmer or fellow farmers, subscribe, and stay connected. Up until next time, we'll be talking about another interesting topic. But until then, keep farming smart, staying committed to your animal success, and committed to your goal as a farmer.